Michael Jackson or Prince?
That's the big question.
Prince.
He picked Prince.
Okay,
I'm going
pick
Prince.
Okay.
Prince is still a genius because he produced his own music and the whole.
I learned my falsetto, I improved my falsetto by practicing Prince. That was because his control of his falsetto was extraordinary and unrivaled in some ways.
Prince, the man who might have been better than Michael Jackson. He could play almost every instrument, create an entire album by himself, and possibly surpass Michael Jackson in pure musical ability. But when we talk about the absolute peak of mainstream stardom, he isn't always the universally agreed upon biggest. And it's not because he wasn't good enough. If Prince had compromised, if he had just played by the rules of the industry, the entire GOAT, greatest of all time, conversation might have looked completely different today. So, how good was Prince actually? Let's find out. Tracing back to the album For You from 1978, the first fact might genuinely shock people. According to BBC, on this debut album, Prince is said to have played every single instrument, 27 in total. These included electric guitar, acoustic guitar, bass, various synths, drums, percussion, water drums, congas, finger cymbals, hand claps, and more. It almost feels like he did not just make music in the studio, he practically lived there. Rumor has it that in the middle of the night, instead of sleeping like a normal human being, he would obsess over every drum beat, polishing even the tiniest guitar riff until it felt just right. It is as if the brain of a genius who built his own world was a machine constantly pouring out melodies, with no off switch installed. For Prince, music was never a project with a finish line. It was oxygen. That level of talent brought him once-in-a-lifetime achievements, but it did not come cheap. For decades, the media framed him as an audacious, idiosyncratic artist with an enigmatic nature. Even the LA Times once commented on his fashion sense, saying, "Some of his weird fashion get-ups were just weird." And yet, behind that distant and almost alien persona was a twist that felt like a full-blown statement. In the mid-1990s, Prince famously wrote the word slave on his cheek and refused to use his highly profitable stage name, all to confront Warner Brothers and demand ownership of his master recordings. Rolling Stone quoted Prince as saying, "People think I'm a crazy fool for writing slave on my face, but if I can't do what I want to do, what am I? When you stop a man from dreaming, he becomes a slave. That's where I was. I don't own Prince's music. If you don't own your masters, your master owns you." You see, decades before Taylor Swift had to re-record her entire catalog, or Kanye West went on Twitter rants about his contracts, Prince was out here risking his entire career and burning his own brand to the ground just to prove a point about artist sovereignty. That intense resistance made one thing very clear. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight, he was never interested in easy applause or shaping himself to fit the crowd. At that point, the picture becomes crystal clear. The only thing he truly wanted, deeply and relentlessly, was absolute freedom. To rule as the one and only king of the artistic kingdom he built with his own hands. That freedom didn't just help, it unleashed an unstoppable creative hot streak. And hold off on the shiny Grammy trophies or those hand-cramping sales records for a second, because none of that really captures the kind of pressure Prince was putting on the game. Throughout the 1980s, he wasn't just dropping a new album almost every year, he was also secretly writing a flood of chart-topping hits. The LA Times confirmed that he wrote Manic Monday for the Bangles under the pseudonym Christopher, and he created, wrote, and produced for the Time, Vanity 6, and Apollonia 6. On stage, watching him perform felt like raw, unfiltered magic. He could rip through the air with blistering guitar riffs, radiate a bold sensuality that blurred every line of gender, and most importantly, no one ever knew what he was about to pull next. From the outside, it looked like this wild explosion of creativity had fueled an overwhelming rain. He wasn't just playing with music, he was casting a shadow over the entire pop culture landscape at a pace the world had never seen before. That dominance becomes even more mind-blowing when you put him side by side with the biggest icon of the time, Michael Jackson. If Michael spent years carefully crafting sound alongside the wizard Quincy Jones, fine-tuning every detail, calculating every bass line to engineer the flawless masterpiece, Thriller, then Prince was doing the exact opposite. He was breaking every rule, smashing every mold without waiting for anyone's approval. That contrast defined the entire decade. On one side, perfection engineered down to every precise moonwalk step. On the other, a wild genius, a full-blown tropical storm that refused to be tamed. And that untamable force is exactly what sparked a quiet but intense clash with the industry elite. Major record labels, long used to mass-producing well-behaved pop stars who followed a proven formula, suddenly found themselves on unstable ground. This was probably the moment the executives realized Prince was far too sharp, far too self-directed to sit obediently as a piece on their chessboard. Things escalated even further when his talent accelerated at a pace that shattered the normal operating limits of any team. According to Billboard, Prince disbanded the Revolution after the Parade Tour in 1986 because he wanted to change direction. Instead of waiting around for traditional production pipelines, he demanded that his touring bands be ready to step on stage and play music they had never even rehearsed, cutting off anyone who couldn't keep up with that breakneck evolution. From the perspective of music industry capitalists, it must have felt like holding a ticking time bomb. This artist was a rare, dazzling diamond, but one he had sharpened so intensely it scratched every machine that tried to contain him. The truth is, he was too good for the system. And paradoxically, that same ahead-of-his-time genius made him an incredibly expensive product to manage, exhausting to work with, and extremely difficult to sell to a mass market that had been trained by MTV and mega labels to consume easily packaged pop idols. That tension didn't just simmer over minor disagreements, it quickly erupted into a full-blown war between a singular genius and an entire industrial machine. At its core, the music industry has always run on carefully calculated commercial formulas. Major record labels crave a kind of predictable rhythm. They want artists dropping an album every 2 years, suiting up for neatly organized promo tours, and maintaining a consistent brand image that's easy to slap onto t-shirts and posters. But Prince? He existed completely outside that orbit. His creativity shifted constantly like a chameleon. He wrote music at lightning speed, and he kept bombarding executives with dozens of projects he wanted released immediately. This shows a fundamental mismatch. The system needs predictability to maximize profit, while Prince's instinct was to smash every boundary of control in order to evolve. And that mismatch didn't stay behind closed doors. It exploded into a full-scale media crisis when Prince decided to abandon his own name and replace it with an unpronounceable symbol. Speaking on CNN, he explained,
"You're an unusual person. Most people don't get famous with one name and then change it, right? Would you say? What's the story of that, by the way?"
Well, I had searched deep within my heart and spirit, and I wanted to make a change and move to a new plateau in my life. And one of the ways in which I did that was to change my name. It sort of divorced me from the past and all the hang-ups that go along with it.
Just because of that decision, New York Magazine reported that Warner Brothers had to send out a wave of floppy disks containing a custom-designed font to newsrooms just so journalists could even type his name in print. On TV and late-night shows, people didn't even know what to call him anymore, so they made up a nickname on the spot.
Hi! We're back with the artist formerly known as Prince. Do you know I have a nickname for you?
Uh-oh. You too, huh?
Yeah, I do. Do you know what I call you? Taff Cap.
Uh-oh.
See? The artist formerly known
Thank you, good night.
On the surface, it was easy for the public to label this as the bizarre behavior of someone unraveling under the pressure of fame. But this might actually be one of the clearest examples of how ruthless the media machine can be. When it can't manage or control you, it finds a way to neutralize you by turning you into a weirdo in the public eye. Even while being buried under negative labels and facing commercial blockades, there was one thing that couldn't be manipulated: his actual ability. Right in the middle of that intense storm with limited distribution, his independently released single, "The Most Beautiful Girl in the World" in 1994, still bulldozed the competition and climbed all the way to #1 on the United Kingdom charts. Retrospective reviews were also favorable, with Rolling Stone including the song on their list of 25 essential Prince songs. His talent was still sitting untouchably at a dazzling peak, but he had to endure a period where his career was tightly restricted, and his image slowly slid into that of someone labeled difficult to control. In 1984, music history witnessed something truly unprecedented when Purple Rain hit the scene. The facts speak for themselves. Prince pulled off what seemed impossible. According to Hollywood Reporter, in Prince's Purple Rain stormed the box office, released July 27, 1984, the film knocked Ghostbusters out of the top spot to become the #1 box office movie that weekend. It went on to earn about $68 million domestically, a massive success for a film made on a budget of just $7 million. At the same time, the single When Doves Cry was sitting at #1, and the album itself was dominating the charts. Looking at that full-scale takeover, it's clear this wasn't just about releasing a great album, it was a full-blown cultural invasion. From the hypnotic sound, to the frilly shirts, to that iconic purple motorcycle, to the electrifying stage presence. Everything exploded across every corner of the media. At that point, it felt like the entertainment world only had two types of people: those who were already obsessed with Prince and those who were about to be. The aftershock of this purple era was so massive it practically reshaped the entire decade of pop music. The LA Times even noted Purple Rain as one of the best-selling albums of his career. He even took home a prestigious Academy Award for Best Original Score, and the giant entertainment machine kicked into overdrive this time, working for him. The same crowds that once raised eyebrows at his eccentricity and gender-fluid style were now scrambling to wear purple, lining up endlessly just to get tickets to his sold-out stadium tours. From the outside, it looked like the moment had finally arrived. The public had dropped their defenses, embraced Prince's uniqueness, and the industry was rolling out an endless red carpet, just waiting for him to step onto the throne. It made one thing crystal clear. Purple Rain was the moment he could have become untouchable, his golden opportunity to become an undisputed global force. And yet, right at that perfect peak, the biggest plot twist of this musical drifter's career hit, and it left both critics and fans stunned. Normally, when someone holds a formula worth tens of millions of dollars, they squeeze every last drop out of it, rolling out endless Purple Rain 2.0 versions to keep the heat alive. But history tells a completely different story. In 1985, instead of repeating that massive success, Prince suddenly dropped Around the World in a Day, an album leaning heavily into psychedelic pop, far less accessible to mainstream listeners. On top of that, he minimized music video releases, turned his back on big marketing campaigns, and said no to large-scale touring. According to Pitchfork, Around the World in a Day was released with no radio, single, or advance promotion. Warner Brothers creative marketing chief Jeff Ayeroff even said, "This has got to be the easiest album I've ever worked on." The common takeaway? Prince goes psychedelic. This might be one of the most rebellious and frankly baffling moves in pop music history. He threw away a proven money-printing formula, brushed aside every optimized revenue strategy, and dove headfirst into risky sonic experimentation. Make no mistake, that was the golden moment for Prince to officially claim the crown and cement himself as the most powerful artist on the planet, permanently, and he calmly said no. By dismantling his own spotlight, he revealed an entirely different dimension of his artistic defiance. At the height of his fame, when global domination was within reach, he chose instead to reject being defined by that very dominance. Because for Prince, commercial success was just a pit stop. The real destination was freedom. The freedom to explore, to push boundaries, and to chase whatever sound came next, no matter the cost. And that refusal to play by the rules came with consequences, brutal, cold, and unforgiving. As a result of everything mentioned earlier, radio DJs were practically freezing up on air, unsure how to properly introduce his new songs without even being able to clearly say his name. Naturally, that led to a drop in airplay. From the outside, this music icon's career looked like it was taking heavy hits. But this wasn't a scandal-driven collapse that destroyed his reputation. It seems it was simply a disconnect. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, the media swirled with whispers that Prince had lost himself or become bizarre. But here is the wild part. Behind the closed doors of Paisley Park, his creative engine never slowed down for a single second. While most artists treat music as a product to be heavily marketed and sold, Prince treated it like a daily diary entry. He kept writing day and night, practically camping out in his legendary archive, The Vault, which kept expanding with thousands of unreleased songs. A standout example of this relentless output is Emancipation in 1996, a massive 3-hour album with 36 tracks. According to the New York Times, even Prince himself was surprised. "Sometimes I stand in awe of what I do myself," he says. "I feel like a regular person, but I listen to this and wonder, where did it come from?" And that wasn't an exaggeration. Producer Jimmy Jam once shared how shocked he was by Prince's work ethic.
Because he'd rehearse his band all day, then he'd rehearse the time all day. Then he'd go make a record all night. He'd walk in the next day at the studio and he'd pop it in a cassette and he'd go, "I did this last night." And, and 1999 would come on or something. It'd be like, what?
He's superhuman.
Oh my God, totally.
This reveals a slightly harsh twist compared to the usual fallen star narrative. His genius didn't disappear or run dry. It's just that the audience, naturally impatient and drawn to safe, familiar sounds, couldn't keep up with an artist releasing music faster than they could even unwrap a compact disc. Running solo on an artistic path like that inevitably comes with a paradoxical trade-off. To break free from the grip of major distribution giants, The Root reported that in 2001 he launched the NPG Music Club, a place where fans could find new music, buy concert tickets, and connect in chat rooms. Prince personally managed it, even lowering prices when fans complained, showing a fiercely independent spirit. Before creators had Patreon, Discord, or direct-to-fan marketing, Prince was literally coding the blueprint. It seems like he didn't just fade out of the mainstream, but he actively chose to trade Billboard chart numbers for a hyper-loyal, subscription-based community. That ruthless music industry never actually had the power or the talent to eliminate Prince. He simply took a different highway, one he paved himself. This shows a pretty clear truth. What the media framed as Prince's collapse was really just a disconnect from a fast-moving world. He may have lost touch with mainstream listening habits, but not for a single second did he lose his extraordinary talent. Therefore, his disappearance from the spotlight didn't feel like a dramatic fall. It felt more like he unplugged himself from a music party that just wasn't his vibe anymore. However, time is always the fairest judge, and Prince's legacy was never meant to be decided by short-term sales numbers or the noise of public opinion in the moment. As many modern pop stars have shared, they've spent countless sleepless nights just studying the way Prince bent notes and layered harmonies. The truth is, Prince's most devoted fans aren't your typical ticket-buying concert goers. They're the very people standing on stage selling those tickets to you. He's a living textbook. Quite literally, your favorite artist's favorite artist.
I learned my falsetto, I improved my falsetto by practicing Prince. That was because his control of his falsetto was extraordinary and unrivaled in some ways.
The thing I learned the most is work ethic from him. That the talent is okay, but you got to outwork people. And I think that he was the living example of that.
His voice intimated me so much. He said, "Hi, Celine." The voice is just...
Prince is a musical genius, so you have to respect them for what they do.
I've always been a fan. I think he's incredible, and I also admire he's very courageous, and he causes lots of controversy too, which is great, and I think he is a brilliant musician.
It reveals a poetic contrast. To the world, Michael is the ultimate pop legend, but to those who truly understand the craft, Prince often feels like the gold standard. And that difference in perspective opens up an entirely new way of looking at Prince's career. The reality is, while he rarely chased blockbuster, billion-dollar style records, Prince quietly built a massive body of work, 39 studio albums freely blending funk, R&B, and rock instead of clinging to safe hit-making formulas. Watching his journey, you realize he wasn't running a race to please the masses. He was sculpting sound on his own terms, often using complex structures that challenge the average listener. Maybe Prince never failed to become the biggest pop star in the world. He simply refused to play by a definition of greatness measured in sales. Instead, he shattered that definition and rewrote the game in a language so advanced that the artistic elite might spend a lifetime trying to decode it. So, how good was Prince actually? If we're talking fame, yeah, Michael Jackson wins. But when it comes to pure musicianship, Prince can stand at the very top, untouched. He might have been the greatest of all time, but he refused to be the easiest to understand. And that's exactly why he's both the greatest genius you've ever heard of, and the legend no one has ever fully figured out. So is his absolute freedom really worth being misunderstood by the rest of the world? I'd love to hear your take on this down in the comments.